Wonderful. Right. So last week we learned that the voice of God spoke to Moses from the burning bush, and it told him that he had to go to Pharaoh and tell him to let God's people go, because Pharaoh was still treating the Israelites very badly as slaves. So Moses and his brother Aaron went to Pharaoh. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says: "Let my people go." "No way," said Pharaoh, "they may not go. I do not know your God. The people may not leave their work. I need them to make bricks and build my cities." And Pharaoh was so cross that he called his slave drivers. "Make the work even harder for the Israelites. Don't give them any straw to make bricks. They have to carry on building, and they must make just as many bricks as before, but now they must gather their own straw for making bricks as well." So the Israelites had to go into the fields and gather straw wherever they could find it, and make bricks and build cities for Pharaoh. And the slave drivers worked them harder than ever. So actually, things got even worse for the Israelites. And then the Israelites got cross with Moses. "You see what you've done to us? You haven't made things any better. We're still slaves, but now it's even worse for us. We have to work twice as hard." And Moses was scared. So Moses prayed to God. "Oh Lord, what is it? What is this you have done? You have sent me to speak to Pharaoh, and now things are even worse for your people." But God said, "No, I am God, and I will rescue my people from slavery to Pharaoh, and they will return to the land of Israel. And in the end, even Pharaoh will know that I am God." Then God told Moses and his brother Aaron what to do. So Moses and Aaron went to see Pharaoh again. "God says you must let his people go," they said. And Pharaoh said, "Well, if you're really speaking from God, perform a miracle that only God can do." So Moses threw down his staff and it became a snake, just as God had said. And I hope that you can remember that from last week. But then Pharaoh called his magicians. "Call the magicians, call the magicians." And the magicians came. But the magicians did a trick and magic snakes from their staffs. But because it was only a trick, Moses' snake swallowed up the magicians' snakes. So God told Moses and Aaron what to do next. The following morning, they went down to the River Nile with Moses' staff. And Pharaoh was there. And Moses said, "Well, you didn't let my people go, and this is what God is going to do next." And Aaron touched the river with his staff, and the whole river turned to blood. And because the river had turned to blood, all the fish died, and it smelt terrible in Egypt. Rotting fish. Ugh. But it wasn't just the river water. Barrels of water turned to blood, and even glasses of water turned to blood. Ew. 7 days later, Moses and Aaron went back to Pharaoh. "God says, let my people go, or I will send a plague of frogs on the whole country of Egypt." But Pharaoh didn't let the Israelites go. And I expect you can guess what happened. Frogs everywhere. Frogs in Pharaoh's palace, frogs in the bedrooms, frogs in the kitchens, frogs on Pharaoh. Pharaoh called Moses. "Just get rid of the frogs and I will let your people go," he said. So Moses prayed to God. And the frogs died and were piled up in heaps all over Egypt, and it was really smelly in Egypt again. But once the frogs had gone, Pharaoh changed his mind again, and he didn't let the Israelites go. So God told Moses and Aaron to strike the dust of the ground with the staff, and the dust would become gnats. That's like mosquitoes. And he did. And there were gnats everywhere, gnats on people, gnats on animals, and everyone was trying to swat the gnats. But they were everywhere, and everyone was being bitten by the gnats. But Pharaoh still wouldn't let the Israelites go. God told Moses what to do next. Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, God says, let my people go, or I will send a plague of flies, and there will be flies everywhere in Egypt, except where my people, the Israelites, are. But Pharaoh wouldn't let them go. So, of course, there were flies everywhere, including Pharaoh's palace. Just get rid of these flies, said Pharaoh to Moses. You can go and worship your God, just don't go very far. And pray for me. So Moses and Aaron prayed for Pharaoh, and the flies left the palace. But once again, Pharaoh would not let the Israelites go. He told Moses and Aaron to go to Pharaoh again. If you do not let my people go, God will send a plague on all your animals, they said. But Pharaoh did not let the people go, and the Egyptian animals became sick and died. But the animals of the Israelites were fine. And Pharaoh still didn't let the people go. So God gave Moses another instruction. Go to Pharaoh, take a handful of dust from a furnace and throw it into the air, and festering boils will break out on people all over the land. And they did. All the Egyptians were covered in big red sores. And of course, Pharaoh still wouldn't let the Israelites go. Poor old Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh again. God says, if you do not let my people go, there will be a storm like you have never seen before in Egypt. There will be thunder and lightning, huge, enormous hailstones falling out of the sky. You'll have to tell everyone that they and their livestock must take cover. But Pharaoh still wouldn't let the Israelites go. And Moses stretched his staff towards the sky. And there was thunder and lightning flashing across the sky and enormous giant hailstones falling to the ground. Soon not even the plants were left standing, apart from in the part of Egypt where the Israelites lived. So Pharaoh called Moses. I have sinned, I am wrong, and your God is right. Please just ask God to make it stop, and I will let your people go, he said. But when the storm stopped, Pharaoh changed his mind again, and he would not let the people go. So this time, God told Moses and Aaron to go back to Pharaoh again. If you do not let my people go, I will send a plague of locusts on the land, and they will eat every single bit of green plant that was left after the hailstorm. But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he wouldn't let the people go. So Moses stretched out his staff. And an east wind blew, bringing in locusts, which covered the land and ate every little bit of green plant that was left. Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron. I have sinned. Please pray to your God to take the locusts away. So they did, and the locusts went away. And then Pharaoh changed his mind again. And then Moses stretched out his hand over Egypt, and the whole land went completely dark. For 3 days and 3 nights, it was completely dark in Egypt, except for the parts where the Israelites lived. But Pharaoh still wouldn't let the Israelites go. He called Moses, get out of my sight, never come near me again. If you ever see me again, you will die. But we will have to wait until next time to see what God told Moses to do next. But the most important thing to remember from this week's story from the Bible is this: don't mess with God. Moses was on God's side. Pharaoh thought he could go against God, and look what happened to him. God made a promise to free the Israelites from slavery. God will keep his promise, but we'll have to see what happens next. But don't be like Pharaoh. Be like Moses and listen to God. And now we're going to do our craft to help us remember the story, but also to help us to tell it to other people. Because some people don't know these stories about God from the Bible, so it's very important to be able to tell other people. So this week's craft is going to look like this. It's very easy. It's just a picture of the plagues that we've seen so far. So you should have in your envelopes 2 pieces of paper like this. And all you need to do is to cut out the pictures on this one and colour them. I'd say probably colour them first. And then when you've cut them out, stick them on this one and make sure that the right shapes fit in the right places from this one. And then you should end up with a reminder of what we learned today. We'll find out what happened next time. So if you want to go back onto gallery view, so we